Black twin girls were cut off mid-audition and told, "You don't have the look Netflix wants." Instead of quitting, they built a DIY studio in their grandma's basement and went viral. After a fire destroyed everything, a Netflix producer messaged them. Now they run their own show. But at the premiere, the woman who once rejected them appeared. And what happened next stunned everyone. They walked in together, shoulder to shoulder, backs straight, eyes focused. Zaria and Zaya Freeman, 17-year-old black twin sisters from East Detroit, stood in the gleaming lobby of the Pacific Performing Arts Center. Their hair was braided back tight. Zaria wore a hand-altered Goodwill blazer over a white tee. Zaya wore her mom's vintage church coat, 2 sizes too big. They had one pair of good shoes between them, so they took turns. In their hands, printed monologues folded to fit into the pockets of their thrifted backpacks. On their faces, defiance behind calm. They were the only black girls in the waiting room. While other auditionees stretched, snapped selfies, and chatted about callbacks, the twins sat silent in the corner, whispering lines from A Raisin in the Sun. Not because it was expected, but because it was home. They'd performed that monologue in living rooms, school gymnasiums, and once in a Walmart aisle while waiting for their mom's prescription. When their number was called, they stood. Inside the casting room, 4 people behind a plastic table, coffee cups, water bottles, phones in hand. One wore a jacket with a Netflix patch. Another was already typing. Zaya stepped forward, voice steady. "Benitha, I want so many things." "Stop!" A bored voice cut her off mid-line. One of the panelists didn't even look up. "You're cute," the woman with the Netflix badge said, eyes briefly flicking up. "But we're not looking for trauma today." Zaria's jaw locked. Zaya blinked. "It's not trauma," Zaria said evenly. "It's truth." Another panelist laughed under their breath. "Sorry, but you don't really have the look we're targeting this season," the casting director added. "Maybe if one of you were different, edgy, quirky. Netflix wants digestible right now." "Try YouTube," said the screenwriter, "or TikTok. Something short." The girls didn't respond. They just stood there, 17, exhausted and invisible. Then Zaria folded the monologue sheet and placed it back in her coat pocket. Zaya nodded. They left without another word. Outside, they sat on the curb in silence for a full minute. Then Zaya said, "They never even looked at us." Zaria replied, "They will." And that night, back in their grandma's apartment, they opened a Google Doc on a shared Chromebook and started writing something they'd never have to audition for. There was no money, no crew, no lights, just an old Chromebook, one cracked iPhone, and a basement that flooded every spring. Zaria and Zaya turned it into a film studio. Their grandmother's house in East Detroit had a half-finished basement, concrete floor, 2 narrow slit windows, and exposed copper pipes that moaned when anyone flushed upstairs. They cleared space between a washing machine and a broken treadmill, nailed a black shower curtain to the wall for a backdrop. Foam from old couch cushions became soundproofing. A single clamp light clipped to a broomstick was their key light. They called it Studio Zero, because that's what they had. 0 backing, 0 industry friends, 0 second chances. But they had each other, and they had stories. Zaria wrote. Her fingers moved like they were on fire. 1-act scripts, slice-of-life scenes, dialogues between girls like them, sharp, funny, vulnerable. Zaya directed. She blocked every shot like it was her last. Positioned lamps for contrast, duct-taped their phone to the wall to mimic a tripod. Shot take after take. Every night after school and homework, they worked until 2 a.m. Their first video, a 1-minute scene called Don't Touch My Hair, was uploaded at 1:17 a.m. It got 86 views, then 400, then 12,000. By the end of the week, it had over 1.2 million views. The comments were flooded with, "Who wrote this? This feels real. Why is this not on Netflix?" Zaya pinned the last comment to the top. The next video hit 3 million. Then came fan duets, reaction stitches, blog posts, and one DM from an indie screenwriter that read, "You girls are the realest thing I've seen online this year." But the most important moment wasn't viral. It was the night their grandma came downstairs holding 2 steaming mugs of chamomile tea and stood in silence as the girls filmed a mother-daughter argument scene. She watched until cut, then said, "You know, this don't feel like pretend." It didn't. It felt like the beginning of something they couldn't name yet, but it was loud, alive, and rising, and they had no idea that what came next would nearly destroy it. The night before it happened, everything felt perfect. Zaria was sprawled out on a beanbag beside their makeshift set, rewriting a script titled Half of Me, a heartbreaker about sisters on opposite sides of an eviction. Zaya was adjusting their one clamp light, trying to bounce it off an old mirror to give their next scene a soft glow. The basement was hot, cluttered, chaotic, and absolutely theirs. They had just passed 100,000 followers, 3 viral shorts, 2 shout-outs from small film bloggers, 1 stitched reaction from a Netflix actor who simply wrote, "This is better than half the stuff I auditioned for." They screamed when they saw it, hugged so tight they knocked over the ring light they got for $15 off Craigslist. That night they stayed up past 3 a.m. editing, drinking Sprite from mason jars, making jokes about where they'd put their future Emmy. The fire started 3 hours later. It wasn't dramatic at first. A soft popping sound, a smell of burning plastic. Their grandmother's old space heater, jammed behind the backdrop to fight the winter chill, had sparked. By the time smoke filled the kitchen upstairs, it was too late. The fire department came fast. The water came faster. By morning, Studio Zero was a blackened ruin. The couch cushions, ash. The scripts, soaked and burned. The Chromebook, gone. The ring light, twisted metal. The phone that filmed everything, cracked beyond repair. The girls stood on the lawn in oversized coats, their eyes glazed, their hands black with soot. Zaya held what was left of the camera mount like it was a broken limb. Zaria just kept whispering, "It's gone. It's all gone." The TikTok post they uploaded later that day wasn't performative. No music, no lighting. Just raw, teary faces in a borrowed bedroom whispering, "Thank you," and "We'll be back somehow." That video got 3.4 million views in 24 hours. And on the second night after the fire, as they scrolled through DMs trying not to cry, one message stood out. "Hey, I'm Mari Torres. I'm an independent producer at Netflix. I've been watching you since your second scene. I saw what happened. Can we talk?" Zaria read it 3 times. Zaya said nothing, just held the phone up like it was radioactive. There was no sound in the room, only the weight of that message, loud as a bomb. After everything was burned, broken, and gone, someone had seen the spark. The Zoom call lasted 13 minutes. Zaria and Zaya sat on the edge of their grandmother's bed, their hair still damp from stress showers, both wearing the same hoodie, passing it back and forth when the other got cold. Their cracked phone propped up against a candle jar, charging from a kitchen outlet. The connection dropped twice, but none of that mattered. Because on the other end of the call was Mari Torres, a producer at Netflix with box braids, a velvet blazer, and a tone that felt like equal parts business and sisterhood. She didn't speak like she was giving them a chance. She spoke like they already belonged. "We don't want to sign your TikTok. We want to develop your voice." Zaya blinked hard, not trusting her ears. Zaria leaned forward. "Our voice?" "Exactly. You write it. You direct it. You star in it. I'll help you package it." They were silent. "Look, Mari continued. You don't owe anyone a thank you. They should have seen you before the fire, but now that they're listening, speak louder. 3 weeks later, they landed in Burbank. The flight was their first time on a plane. Zarya threw up from turbulence. Zaya cried quietly when they crossed the Rockies. Neither spoke the whole ride to the studio apartment Netflix had rented them, furnished, small, expensive-looking, too clean, too quiet. There were no cousins upstairs, no grandma humming, no smell of grits or burnt popcorn, just air conditioning that actually worked, and silence that didn't. Their first table read was terrifying. The script, based on their viral short, Don't Touch My Hair, was now a 12-page pilot. Zarya had written every word herself. Zaya had blocked each beat with color-coded stage directions. They entered the writer's room wearing matching denim jackets and thrifted sneakers. Everyone else wore lanyards and had film school on their LinkedIn. The twins were greeted with polite nods, awkward smiles, and a kind of low-level skepticism that hung in the air like smoke. During the first pitch session, an executive asked if they wanted to lighten the ending to make it more universal. Zaya's jaw tensed. Zarya responded calmly, "The ending's not supposed to be light. It's supposed to be real." After the meeting, Mari pulled them aside. "You don't need to apologize for being exact. They brought you here for your fire. Don't let them water it down." Shooting started 2 weeks later. For the first time, they had real cameras, a lighting team, makeup artists, boom mics, warm food in trailers. Zaya stepped behind the monitor on day 1 and whispered, "This doesn't feel real." Zarya, dressed in costume and about to call action, replied, "Then we better shoot it before it disappears." They worked like machines. 12-hour days, rewrite sessions until midnight, directing themselves, checking dailies, cutting scenes that didn't serve the story. Every line was war. Every shot was a second chance. Their short film wrapped in 12 days. When it was done, Mari took them aside and showed them the final cut on a studio screen. No filters, no hashtags, just their words, their faces, their pain, their power. They didn't cry. They just held hands in the dark and whispered in sync, "We built this." But what they didn't know, what none of them saw coming, was who would be sitting in the audience at the premiere. They weren't ready for the crowd. The girls had been told it would be a soft screening. Just industry folks, a few guests, nothing crazy. So, when they stepped into the Netflix Showcase Theater in downtown Los Angeles and saw the line stretching down the block, people in red carpet outfits, camera crews, influencers with vlogs already rolling, they froze. Zaya tightened her grip on Zarya's arm. Zarya whispered, "Don't look down. Look forward." Inside, the lobby pulsed with light and low laughter. Every wall played a looping trailer of Half of Me, their short film, their story. One frame showed Zaya's face mid-breakdown. Another, Zarya staring into the lens with that raw, cutting monologue that had sparked everything. People pointed, whispered. Some clapped just seeing them. They weren't used to this kind of spotlight. Not like this. Back in Detroit, no one had ever asked them for photos. In this room, people tripped over each other to shake their hands. A woman approached in a tailored white dress with a press badge and a mic. Zaya Freeman, what does it feel like to go from TikTok nobodies to the hottest voice in young black cinema? Zaya flinched at the word nobodies. Zarya smiled calmly. We were never nobodies. Just unseen. Inside the screening room, the lights dimmed. Their names lit up on a 40-foot screen, and then, halfway through the credits, they saw her. Third row, dead center, the casting director. The same woman from Pacific Performing Arts Center. Hair now slicked back, black Prada blazer, VIP badge clipped neatly to her collar, watching, applauding. Zaya stiffened. Zarya stared, unblinking. She didn't notice them, or maybe she did, and pretended not to. Either way, the irony was suffocating. The film began. Their voices filled the room. It was the same monologue they'd tried to perform at that audition, word for word. Except now it echoed through Dolby speakers. Now it was followed by applause, not interruption. When the lights came up, the room exploded in standing ovation. And this time, no one said, "You don't have the look." Backstage, a reporter found them again and asked, "What would you say to the people who rejected you?" Zaya looked straight into the camera. "We stopped waiting for permission." Zarya added without missing a beat, "And we rewrote the ending." Then they walked off the stage, not with revenge in their hearts, but something sharper. Proof. A year later, they stood on a stage that didn't exist when they left. Zarya and Zaya Freeman, now 18, stood in front of a packed auditorium at East Detroit Arts High, the school they once felt invisible inside. Now the walls were lined with movie posters, their movie, their series, their faces. Above the stage, printed in bold black letters on a silver banner, "If they don't give you the stage, build one." The Netflix series was real now. 8 episodes. Executive producers, Zarya and Zaya Freeman. A story about sisters surviving the system, breaking the cycle, rewriting the narrative. They had just wrapped season 2. But this was the moment they asked for. This is where they wanted to be. The auditorium wasn't filled with industry execs or casting agents. It was filled with 15-year-old kids holding notebooks, girls with braids and sketch pads, boys clutching phone cameras, teachers wiping away tears. Their grandma sat in the front row, in a bright pink hat she wore like a crown. Zaya stepped to the mic first. "When we were your age, we were told our voices were too heavy, too specific, too black. We believed that, until we told our stories anyway." Zarya added, "They said we weren't the look, so we made them see us." Behind them, a giant screen flickered to life, showing a side-by-side image, the scorched remains of their basement studio, and their current writing room in Burbank. The crowd gasped, then cheered. After the event, a girl approached them, maybe 14, nervous, notebook in hand. "How do you know when it's working?" Zarya smiled gently. "It's working when it scares you." Zaya leaned in. "And when they tell you to stop, that's when you go louder." That night, as they rode back through the same streets they once dreamed of escaping, Zaya looked out the window at the houses lit up in early evening glow. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly. Zarya didn't answer right away, just stared out at the streets that had made them. The streets that had once swallowed their silence and now echoed their voice. Then she nodded. "Yeah, we came back whole." And though they'd stood on red carpets and sat in writers' rooms, this, right here, felt like the biggest stage of all. Not just being seen, but showing others they could be too.